When people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
Today, we're telling the story of Charlie Kirk, a young man who rose from suburban Illinois to become one of the most recognized conservative voices in America. He was only 31 years old when his life was cut short in a shocking act of violence. This episode is not about cheerleading or condemnation. It's about truth. Charlie Kirk's life, his family, his beliefs, his controversies, and the tragic circumstances of his death. So, let's begin. Hello, welcome to Crime Bytes, a show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Eliza, and today is True Crime Tuesday. Last Wednesday, we covered the tragic execution of Irina Zarutska. It was the kind of I really couldn't wait it to get off my chest episode, and I really haven't been hit by something so hard in a while. And the case we're going to talk about today hits hard as well, but differently. Just, what the heck? And I watched both of those videos that day, and I feel hollow and rocked to my core. And I used to pride myself at being able to handle tough things like this, but I'm not feeling so tough anymore, really. I'm feeling shook. It's a really sad day in America when someone is publicly executed for exercising their right to free speech, and I don't care what they're saying. Charlie Kirk was a Christian commentator who didn't shy away from sensitive topics, but he always attempted to tackle them without compromising his beliefs while still being as respectful as possible. But if you don't know who we're talking about, let me play you a quick clip.
Christian, by any chance?
Very, very much so.
Like, why is that exactly?
Jesus saved my life. I'm a sinner, gave my life to Christ, most important decision I ever made.
So you believe the Bible is real?
Yes, I believe the Bible is true and real. Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I could give you the technical answer. There's never been an archaeological discovery that has contradicted the truth of the Bible. And then, of course, the wisdom. There is not a truth of the Bible that if you apply to your life does not improve dramatically. And then finally, we have the most accurate and transparent, historically robust account that one can have of the most important figure ever to live in the history of the world, Jesus of Nazareth. And the resurrection is the pinpoint of my belief that Jesus did rise from the grave so that we may live.
What makes Christian mythology real?
So that's not mythology, but that is theology. If Genesis 1:1 and the resurrection is true, anything in the Bible is possible. You're looking at the greatest miracle. The greatest miracle is creation. And then the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. And I say, how do you know that Jesus rose from the dead? Well, show me another historical piece of a story where so many people willingly died a brutal death for a lie. Every single person around him had everything to lose, and yet they went to the absolute death, from Paul to Peter to the half-brother of James, saying that Jesus is Lord, Jesus rose from the dead. Not to mention, if you were going to fake a story, you would not use female witnesses in the ancient world. In the scriptures, it said that the women were the first one to see Jesus Christ. If you're trying to fake a story, you would never do that.
I'm sorry, can you maybe rephrase that?
Eliminating abortion is the only logical step while we apply the standard we already have in this country to unborn life. So we have murder laws.
Yes.
Therefore, murder laws should apply to unborn life as it does to born life.
Okay. So, again, reiterating, you're not trying to instate laws based on Christian beliefs, because that would be unconstitutional, right?
Well, not again, sort of, but no, I am not using scripture to defend my beliefs. However, my personal convictions start with scripture, but the political views that we're talking about here are all defensible using reason and Western tradition.
Okay. So, great. That's all I needed to know, that you weren't trying to instate laws based on Christian beliefs, because I would not be able to support anything that was so blatantly unconstitutional. But thank you for clarifying that for me. I had a whole thing ready, but I guess that wasn't necessary. Thank you so much.
Well first of all, just tell me more about how you view politics, or what. Is that okay? Or if not, like... And feel free to walk away. I'm not
Maybe
here.
not in this crowd.
That's okay. Thank you.
So, who was this guy and what made him so passionate about his beliefs? Charlie Kirk was born Charles James Kirk on October 14th, my sister's birthday as well. He was born in 1993 in Arlington Heights, Illinois. He grew up in the nearby town of Prospect Heights. His father, Robert W. Kirk, worked as an architect. His mother was a mental health counselor. Friends and neighbors later recalled them as a middle-class family, stable, church-going, encouraging their children to work hard. As a boy, Charlie was involved in the Boy Scouts of America, eventually earning the rank of Eagle Scout. Even then, he showed leadership qualities. He was described as organized, outspoken, and unafraid to take a stand. At Wheeling High School, Charlie began to develop an interest in politics. In his junior year, he volunteered for Republican Senator Mark Kirk's campaign, which in this case, there was no relation there. They just shared the same last name. And in a smaller but telling story, he once led a protest in his cafeteria when the price of cookies was raised, which might sound trivial, but it did reveal something. Charlie had a knack for channeling frustration into organization. By his senior year, he was writing political essays. One of them, published in Breitbart News, criticized what he saw as liberal bias in school textbooks. That piece got him noticed. After high school, Charlie enrolled at Harper College, a community college near Chicago, but he never finished. And why? Because by 2012, at just 18 years old, Charlie Kirk was already consumed with a new mission. That year, he co-founded Turning Point USA, alongside retired entrepreneur Bill Montgomery. The goal was bold: to mobilize young conservatives, especially on college campuses, and push back against what they saw as left-leaning dominance in higher education. Hey, buddy. How you do? I got cheese. We're out of bacon stacks. It was more than just a student club. It became a movement, and he built chapters across the country, recruited student leaders, and leaned heavily on social media. Turning Point USA grew into a nonprofit with millions in funding, a powerful presence online. By his mid-20s, Charlie Kirk wasn't just a campus activist anymore. He was a national media personality. Hi. He hosted The Charlie Kirk Show, published books, and appeared regularly on conservative outlets. His style was described as combative, provocative, and unapologetic. Critics said he thrived on outrage. Supporters said he spoke truths others were too afraid to say. Charlie Kirk stood firmly for limited government, free markets, religious liberty, strong borders, and traditional family values. He often clashed with progressives on issues of immigration, LGBTQ policy, gun rights, and race in America. On the Second Amendment, for example, he was explicit. Yes, gun deaths were tragic, but he argued the right to bear arms was essential, even if it came at a cost. For many conservatives, that was refreshing honesty, and for critics, it was shocking indifference, and now it really just drips with irony. Kirk also tied his politics to his Christian faith. He was outspoken about the role of Christianity in American life and was part of a broader evangelical wave in conservative politics. And then there was Donald Trump. Kirk became one of Trump's most vocal young allies, often defending him on college campuses and in the media. He saw Trump as a disruptor, an outsider willing to change the establishment, much like he saw himself. And we're not going to expand more on that part either, but he was very pro-Trump. For all his fiery persona, Charlie's personal life was built around family and faith. In May of 2021, he married Erika I'm I'm sorry about that last name, a former Miss Arizona USA, a philanthropist, and podcaster. Together, they had 2 children, a daughter born in August of 2022 and a son born in May of 2024. Charlie often spoke about the importance of being a husband and father. He said family was at the core of his worldview. To his supporters, this made him relatable. He wasn't just talking about traditional values, he was living them. Of course, not everyone admired Charlie Kirk. Turning Point USA faced scrutiny, accusations of mismanagement, criticism of its financial practices, and claims of spreading misinformation. Charlie's own comments often generated a lot of backlash. His detractors said he oversimplified complex issues, that he used culture war battles to gain clout, and that his confrontational style deepened polarization. And yet, this also was part of his appeal. In an era of cautious politicians, Kirk was blunt. Where others hedged, he charged forward. In 2025, Charlie Kirk launched the American Comeback Tour. It was ambitious, rallies and debates on college campuses across the country. At the center was his Prove Me Wrong table, an open invitation for students to sit across from him and argue face to face. The events drew crowds and controversy. Supporters saw it as free speech in action. Critics said it was provocation disguised as dialogue. On September 10th, 2025, Kirk brought the tour to Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. About 3,000 people gathered under a tent to hear him speak. Then, chaos. A shot rang out, and Charlie Kirk was hit in the neck. Reports say the bullet came from a nearby rooftop, fired from a distance. Panic swept through the crowd, and students screamed. People ducked, security scrambled. Charlie was rushed to Timpangos Regional Hospital. For hours, there was hope. He was in critical condition, but by nightfall, the announcement came. Charlie Kirk was dead at only 31 years old. The nation reacted swiftly. Political leaders on both sides condemned the shooting. Donald Trump ordered flags at half-staff. Conservative media outlets called it an assassination, an attack on free speech, which, yeah, it is. It's exactly what it is. Investigators launched a manhunt. A person of interest was questioned, but as of now, the shooter remains unidentified. All right, now I get to cut into myself because they have captured a suspect. I filmed that part like right after it happened, and I was thinking this would happen, and I'm so glad it did. So let's discuss that. On September 12th of 2025, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was apprehended for killing Charlie Kirk. Here is what we know so far. Tyler Robinson was born and raised in Washington County, Utah, a deeply conservative part of the state. His upbringing was relatively stable. His mother, Amber, worked as a social worker, and his father, Matt, owned a construction business and was involved in his life. Tyler was the eldest of 3 boys, and people who knew him in childhood described him as quiet, intelligent, and respectful. He attended Pineview High School in St. George, where he excelled academically. Tyler's high school record was extraordinary. He carried a perfect 4.0 GPA and earned a 34 on the ACT, one of the highest scores achievable. Teachers and classmates saw him as someone destined for success. His academic achievements won him a full merit scholarship to Utah State University. But things changed quickly after high school. Despite his promise, Tyler lasted just 1 semester at Utah State. Friends noted that he seemed overwhelmed and disillusioned with the university environment. After dropping out, he returned home and enrolled in an electrical apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College. In 2022, he secured an apprentice electrician's license. This path suggested he was capable of hard, disciplined work, but it also looked like a step down from the bright academic track many expected for him to those around him. Around this time, Robinson began shifting in his personal life. He was no longer the quiet high achiever. Instead, he became more inward-looking, spending significant time online. Investigators later revealed he was active on Discord, where he discussed weapons, engraved bullets, and at least once mentioned retrieving a rifle from a hidden drop point. Friends and acquaintances say he was politically aware, but not outspoken in public. His growing intensity about certain issues seemed confined to private conversations and digital spaces. Importantly, Robinson had no prior criminal record. Nothing in his history suggested violence or instability to those on the outside. But law enforcement believes that in the years after high school, he developed sharper political views and resentment. And he directed a lot of that resentment specifically towards Charlie Kirk. Exactly when or why that shift occurred remains unclear, but people close to him said that he had grown increasingly frustrated with what he perceived as hypocrisy and extremism in American politics, which, fair. But then it was September 10th. Authorities say he fired from a rooftop roughly 200 yards away. After the shooting, authorities reviewed surveillance footage from Utah Valley University that showed a person of interest arriving on campus in a gray Dodge Challenger. And after the photos of the person of interest were released, Robinson's father recognized him, which, can you even imagine? That poor man. But he did the right thing. His father and his youth pastor, ironically, convinced him to confess and turn himself in. His roommate, who has been identified as 22-year-old Lance Twiggs, has been reportedly very cooperative with law enforcement and helped them collect digital evidence, which included messages on platforms like Discord, which, like I said, referenced retrieving a rifle from a drop point, engraving bullets, and things like that. Lots of politically extreme views. It is also possible that Lance was Tyler's lover as well, and that he is currently in the process of transitioning from male to female, but that has not been confirmed that they were together. What has been confirmed is that they were roommates. So we will see with that, but that would definitely lay down a pretty clear motive if so. Beyond that, there was clearly an ideological disagreement. Tyler seems to have been radicalized by his opposition to Kirk's brand of conservative activism, seeing him as a symbol of what he disliked in American politics. Beyond that, and in his personal life, dropping out of college and failing to fulfill his early academic promise may have left him isolated, resentful, and searching for a sense of purpose. And political extremism often preys on such vulnerabilities. His activity on Discord suggests he may have immersed himself in online subcultures where violent rhetoric against public figures is normalized. Investigators are probing whether others encouraged him, but I mean, given the disgusting reactions we're seeing to his death, it's not a far reach. Tyler's confession to family and willingness to surrender suggests that he may not have been fully committed to a long-term violent campaign. It's possible the act was as much about personal despair and attention as it was about ideology. But unless or until he makes a statement, all we can do is speculate. What we can say is the shooting not only ended Charlie Kirk's life, but it also effectively ended Tyler Robinson's. Once a gifted student with enormous promise, he is now facing a future defined by legal battles and the likelihood of being executed himself. Tyler's story is one of wasted potential, radicalization, and the devastating consequence of choosing violence. All right, let me get back to my original cut and wrap this thing up. For Charlie's wife, Erika, and their 2 young children, the loss is incalculable.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us will refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it. It will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. My husband's mission will not end, not even for a moment.
For his movement, the question, what now?
Not silent. We're going to pick up that blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it. Now, it's still up to us. I saw a lot of rumors online today. I was made aware of this by my team that I canceled some sort of college tour. That's bullshit. I saw those rumors. They are false. I will be coming to college campuses, many of them this year. So will we all, I am sure, because we're Americans and we're not going to be deterred. Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it. And to those who would intimidate, who would seek to stop us, who would seek to end free discussion, who believe that they have ownership over public spaces and can violently threaten and kill people who speak freely, we are not going to stop. And I have two words. You. We will not stop telling the truth. We will never stop telling the truth. We will never stop debating and discussing.
Charlie Kirk's legacy is complicated like most public figures. To supporters, he was a warrior for conservative youth, a fearless debater, a man of faith and family who gave them a voice on hostile campuses. And to critics, he was a figure who deepened polarization at a fragile time. But whether you agreed with him or not, one fact remains: he mattered. He built institutions, influenced millions, and left a mark on American politics that really can't be ignored. And now his sudden death raises a very chilling reality. Even in a polarized America, even words can make someone a target. Charlie Kirk's story is not just about one man. It's about a generation, about faith, politics, free speech, family, and the risks of living loudly in a divided nation. His death is tragic, but his life, short as it was, reminds us that ideas matter, that words have power, and that conviction, for better or for worse, can shape a movement. All right, guys, I do have another mental health story on deck. If we don't have any other just horrific and wild assassinations going on by next week that I feel compelled to cover, we will talk about that next week. And until then, please stay safe out there. Bye.
Everything completely goes away. How do you want to be remembered?
I mean, if I die?
Everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith in my life.